Hello, everyone.
Hello,
We're here for yet another week of Drop Your Buffs. I'm Alex.
I'm Ryan.
We're going to be dissecting this week's episode of Survivor Winners at War. Ryan, what did you think?
Overall, probably my least favorite episodes so far, just for a few things. I think there were a couple standout moments that I really enjoyed, but maybe part of it is the bias of who went home. Maybe part of it is just kind of the editing leading up to the vote. I just felt things were very disjointed this episode. How about you?
I definitely agree in the sense that the main theme for me this episode, you and I disagreed last week, but for me, it kind of echoed my thoughts on episode 2, which were effectively, I felt like the editing kind of left me going, okay. And the main theme of this episode is contestants kept saying things, whether about the dynamics between other players or the dynamic for the game as a whole, where they'd say something and I'd go, we as the audience have zero support of what's being said. And eventually it got a little bit frustrating for me because I'm like, I want us to focus on the things that they're talking about, but we're focusing so much on capturing a shark or Adam and talking about how Rob needs to play like him. And I'm just like, I don't care about any of this. When later in the episode, I'm like, we keep hearing things that don't make sense to us because we aren't being given anything in the edit to support what's being said. So it's a little bit frustrating, a little bit disjointed.
Yeah,
So
I am currently watching Australian Survivor All Stars at the same time as this season, and I can't help I think I say it like every week. I just always feel like Survivor US would really benefit from 90-minute episodes, 2-hour episodes. I feel like there's just so much more to unpack that we're not able to see. But let's start it off on a positive. I think we got a lot of really good stuff this week from the Edge of Extinction. Um, I am loving watching Natalie over there. What was your takeaway on Natalie on Edge?
my takeaway on Natalie is I find it so fascinating that there are people online who are just so frustrated and annoying that Natalie is basically taking this bizarre concept of Edge of Extinction, which to me I never really preferred in its original season, and is just taking it to this level of how can I continue not only just be on vacation on Edge of Extinction, which is basically what happened during Survivor Edge of Extinction when it was premiered, like that twist, but how can I optimize the time that I have here and really run with it? And she is doing that. She is killing it. And she is playing the game in a way that I never would have considered playing. So I'm
I
very,
think
very impressed with her. She was already one of my favorites going into the season. And she's proving exactly why she won her season and why she deserves to be in this season again
yeah,
and again and again.
I think we are really seeing exactly why Natalie is a winner who has always had elevated gameplay compared to other winners. And it's really exciting. It's fun to see her. I smashed the shells on this necklace and I threw the other one in the woods. Like she's thinking of things that nobody else is thinking of. It's just very impressive.
Mind freaking blown. And I think that obviously fans who have eyes and ears that work understand exactly what she's doing and can appreciate that. And I find it really interesting that some people just either find her annoying or things like that. I don't even care. I'm totally here for Natalie. If she somehow does not make it back into the game, I'm just going to lose my mind.
I know this is one instance where I'm really hoping that the edit will pay off because so far the editing, like you mentioned, has been very hodgepodge. So speaking of a disjointed edit, we start over at the Blue Tribe this episode. Adam making really bizarre remarks talking about Boston Rob, and he said this line that really stuck out at me. He said, "Rob needs to play the way that I'm playing." No,
He said he needs to play like I am. It
like
was
I
the
am.
actual quote.
Yeah.
And again, and it's rare, I'm trying really hard because Adam has like announced that he's going off of social media because he's getting so much hate. And I know that I am not contributing to him not feeling that way. So I'm trying really hard to be opinionated like I am, but also realizing it's a game and these are people and everyone deserves respect. That being said, I want to blame that also on the editing because when he starts that one sentence, he's like here talking, and then by the end of that sentence, he's over here in a completely different body pose. So part of
Right.
the things, as much as I don't think a lot of people, well, maybe people caught that. Because when I first watched the episode, I didn't catch that at all. The second time I watched it, I was like, oh, producers, you're cute in what you're doing right now. Because to me, Adam criticizing or being constructive in Boston Rob's game is hilarious to me. For him to say he's playing like Redemption Island, and this is not Redemption Island, this is Winners at War. And I'm like, oh, what's really funny is you say that, then you run to Ethan and tell him that Parv's a target, and eventually go to Boston Rob and tell him Rob's a target. And here's the funny thing, he did the exact same thing in Millennials versus Gen X. Zeke had an entire, I remember this, Zeke had an entire like confessional where he's talking about like, you can't just trust Adam to leave well enough alone, to have a plan for a blind side. Adam has to go in and try and be buddy-buddy with everybody. And here's the thing, he was shitty at it during Millennials versus Gen X. He won anyway, so there's that. But he's doing the exact same thing. So for him to criticize Rob for playing a similar game to Redemption Island when he's making the exact same moves / mistakes as Millennials versus Gen X, for me, I'm like, I want to be open-minded that Adam is secretly controlling the game and we're just not getting that edit. But when he does that, I'm like, no, I can't.
Right. Very interesting too to see that Adam is referring to his strong bond with Ethan, and I had actually called that preseason. I really thought that Ethan and Adam were going to be a really strong pair, and then right away we see Ethan turn around and go, "No, I'm closest to Parvati. I'm completely in with Parv. I don't know what Adam is thinking." So
I feel like
I thought it was a really interesting remark as well.
I,
So
I found that really funny. And I think Adam is really overestimating the relationships that he's building. And here's the trick. I feel like he did that the first time as well. And what worked in Adam's favor is he did that. He got the sneaky snake rat mentality from the other players, but he was such a non-entity compared to players like Zeke, like David, and other players that were really threats in the game. And he stands the potential of doing the exact same thing he did in Millennials versus Gen X and winning again. And it's really frustrating to watch.
ugh, I refuse to. And here's the thing: like, I don't support online bullying in any way, shape, or form. I think if people are taking what they're seeing on a TV show personally and feeling like that gives them empowerment to belittle somebody or anything like that, I think it's disgusting. I think we're remarking on gameplay behavior and our level of excitement to see somebody play. So
Yeah.
hopefully, in no way is that taken as a criticism of someone's personality, humanity, anything.
I have
Uh,
nothing to say against Adam as a person because I don't
yeah,
know Adam. It's really just watching gameplay and saying, you're making these same mistakes. And that's one thing to make mistakes. It's another thing to, while making those mistakes, to criticize someone else's game.
right.
I pray more than anything, it's just editing. Like maybe this is something Adam says about Rob on day 20 and they just inserted it on day 9. I have no idea.
Hopefully he's not around by day 20. But moving on to DeCall, we had some interesting things going on before the challenge. I'm really starting to get over the DeCall winning just because we're seeing such random things like Sandra being the provider and getting a shark, and Tony running around and finding a way to turn a shark into a bludgeoning weapon of some sort. Um, but there was something
They need to go to tribal council.
they need to. But I don't want to lose Kim or Tyson yet, so I kind of don't want them to go to tribal. Um, I did notice a really interesting remark from Yule. There was this notion where Tyson tells Yule that Sandra's a big threat, Sandra needs to go, and Tyson is over here thinking that's a good move. Yule turns right around and tells Sandra, and I think that's very smart gameplay on his part because everybody knows once you tell Sandra that someone is targeting her, she is a bull seeing red, and it's all tunnel vision. I need to target this person. For Yule, that's perfect gameplay. He's no longer even possibly on the table as an option. So
Yule absolutely was genius in doing that because Yule is already going to be perceived as a colossal threat. He would have been going into it, and other than just being a really nice person, everyone's like, Yule's smart, Yule knows numbers, Yule knows how to get in people's heads, and Yule's an intellectual. He doesn't play with emotion, so in that sort of things, he can be a stone cold killer if you let him. So for him to take one of the most notorious players in the game and also one of the most notorious and like loudmouth people in the game, which I don't know which side's Tyson and which side's Sandra. You got one person who's like won twice, one person who's only won once. It's like anything that Yule can do to make people want to go after each other and not him is genius. So well played on Yule's part.
I
Also,
think
that builds an ally in Sandra. And if for whatever reason it doesn't get back to Tyson that Yule is the one that ratted him out, he still potentially has that tied to Tyson as well. So for me, it was a win-win situation.
Yeah, I think we're really seeing evidence of Yule studying every person's winning game. And I don't think it's been blatantly said, but I think it's very evident that he knows exactly how to get to Sandra, exactly how to get to Tyson. I think it's super smart. And I'm seeing like really strong indications that Yule could be a potential winner here, if not a deep, deep run in the game.
I feel he's going to be a deep, deep run. I think that his reputation is going to precede him eventually, and it's going to catch up to him.
Yeah.
That being said, I need to call to go to tribal council. If we see, as much as I'd love a potential Adam unanimous vote, I need to call to go to tribal council because we have not seen anything of Wendell in 2 episodes. As much as I am not upset about it, I don't think we've seen Nick do anything in the game thus far. I want to see Sophie really hone the groundwork that she has laid so far to try and really go in and be like, who can I manipulate? Who can I go for? We needed to call tribal council like yesterday.
Yeah. You're completely right. Over on DeCall, we also saw Sarah getting a steal a vote. Very interesting choices. She told Tony about it. I don't quite get why. Do you feel like that was a bad move to tell Tony?
Well, we won't know until we see DeCall go to a tribal council. We really won't. I don't think Tony right now, especially since he had such an early boot, I don't think Tony is not in a position to be picky with allies the way that Sandra might be able to be picky with allies, the way that Sophie might be able to be picky with allies. Tony knows that he's eccentric and that he's kind of all over the place. And I think he has going home second in a previous season kind of looming on his head. So I don't think he's really going to try and burn bridges with Sarah unless Sarah does something very deliberate to try and get rid of him. So I thought the whole let's put ash on your forehead, I was like, I don't know when this turned into Ash Wednesday. I'm living for it. I'm here for it. When she's like, here, spit in the ash and put it on my forehead, I'm like, that's some kinky stuff that I have no explanation for, but I have all the time in the world for it because that was hilarious. Especially when I'm assuming, regardless of where they were, less than 100 feet away was a beach that they could have used to moisten some ash. So I thought that was hilarious.
I had a lot of secondhand embarrassment for Sarah in that situation. Like, we're going to apply ash to my face, keeping in mind that I'm wearing clothing that is not dark in color at all, and that I have pale ass limbs. But yeah, let's ash in my face so that I blend in with the trees in the middle of the night.
Now, here's the thing. I would never in a million years condone a woman letting a man have anything to do with putting saliva on her face unless she was into it. That being said, maybe, because again, editing's a funny thing, maybe in Sarah's mind, she was like, hey, Tony's insane. I need to keep Tony in my back pocket as an ally. And if Tony's like, hey, why don't I spit on this so that it'll stick on your forehead more? And Sarah's like, I really don't want you to do that, but if it's going to make you think that much more that you want to hire an item, then sure, whatever, spit on the ash all you want. So that could have been into play, and maybe we didn't see it. We're really not going to know for sure. My thing was there was every time there's like a go into the other tribe and, you know, procure something, steal something, whatever the case may be. I'm very curious if there's some sort of rule where if you are discovered, that somehow you don't get that advantage.
Yeah, I actually did. I did want to ask you about this because the last couple seasons there's been this random introduced theme of sneaking into the other tribe's camp and accomplishing something. And it's very out of nowhere. It's never really been explained. We don't really know the rules about it. Do you feel like this is like kind of like that used to be a rule, like you cannot interact with the other tribe, you cannot go to their camp, you cannot do this? Do you feel like that's kind of like interesting at all, or is it sort of like for me I don't get it. Like I understand, it's stealthy espionage danger, but I
There's
feel like it's riskier to do that. Like at the challenge, there's this thing, you're going to have to get it in front of everybody else. I think that's a more interesting
It
throw.
is interesting because A, we know what the inherent danger is in being discovered in what you're doing. Whereas with this one, if Sarah were to be discovered, it's one thing if it's like, oh, well, the only downside of being discovered is somebody on the other tribe knows that you might have an advantage, which inherently is very dangerous to your game. It's a completely different set of circumstances if it turns into if you were seen by anyone, if anyone can confirm that they saw someone from another tribe in their camp, you do not get the advantage, game over.
Right.
I think knowing what is totally at stake would definitely make a difference because they always drum it up like they're walking through the camp and then someone like moves or something like that, or someone like opens their eyes in like a moment, but then they're never discovered. I don't think we've ever seen a moment where someone goes to the other tribe and someone from the tribe that they're infiltrating notices that they're there. I don't think that's happened once yet.
It hasn't. It's just very foolish. I mean, like, we have to realize that there are literally boats coming and going to these camps all the time. There are cameramen, producers, things constantly. So, like, if someone were to wake up in the middle of the night and see someone randomly walking around camp, they would probably just assume, oh, it's camera guy number 17. Like,
It's a camera person. It's whatever.
it's not even really a risk. And I feel like that's a little strange. But I did want to mention. Oh,
What did you think about there being one advantage where someone's like, oh, hey, I'm just going to give you a hidden immunity idol, which is one of the most powerful, if not one of the most powerful advantages you can get in the game versus, hey, in order to get this one steal a vote, we need you to infiltrate the other camp, go into the torches, find it, and then come back. For me, I was like, I feel like there's somewhat of an imbalance here. The argument was made that, well, the hidden immunity idol is only good for the first 3 tribal councils after it's been given. Even then, I'm like, that's still huge.
right.
As much as I love Sandra, and I'm not faulting her, she did absolutely nothing to get this hidden immunity idol. So the question,
Right.
go ahead.
Sorry, there is definitely a lack of balance there, but the thing that makes me not be critical of it is keeping in mind that all of these advantages or the opportunity to earn them is purchased through a fire token. So the person who's giving these out at the island, the edge of extinction, you have to keep in mind that they're choosing who to give these things to. So knowing that this person has to get a steal a vote by sneaking into the other camp to get it, they might think, well, maybe I could screw this person over because they're going to be dumb enough to try to get it. I still get the fire token. Maybe they'll get caught and they'll get voted out of the game.
In this instance, I don't think Natalie would have gotten this fire token if Sarah had not been successful. Or maybe I'm wrong.
I think it was.
You're right. I apologize. Sarah just had to agree to do it for
yeah.
Token. You're right. I apologize.
I think it's what it is. I'm not totally sure. So, but I did want to mention all of this because I was impressed more so than the last few episodes with Sarah. I felt like I really saw some things out of Sarah that I actually finally liked, even though I'm not sold on the whole Tony relationship. I think normally, honestly, for me, it's just the way that she talks. It gets to me. But this episode, I actually really liked her. I was starting to root for her, which I was excited about.
Okay.
We move on to the challenge. Another sweep for DeCall, but it was actually a little bit closer. Anything that stood out for you with the challenge at all?
Okay, so this was one of my not drop your bus, but did you notice moments? My did you notice moment was when they were first doing like the back and forth situation on the little like Ninja Warrior walls. Adam falls off, and instead of like hitting the floor or like moving forward so that the people behind him can kind of keep going, he literally turns around in the middle of those walls and just tries to go back. And I'm sitting here like,
I did notice that.
I was like, he's a strategic mastermind at work, totally like throwing himself in the middle of people trying to jump back and forth between these walls. So I thought that was really funny.
It was silly. I also think I correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was Jeremy did the same thing. I think he fell right at the very end of the course, and instead of running around to the side to go reset like everybody from Nicole was doing, he literally stood at the very end in the middle, like trying to find a way to get through everybody running. And I was like, why don't you just run around the side?
So, and as much as I want to come down on Adam, and I didn't even notice, I knew that someone else did it, so I couldn't fully rain on Adam for doing it. He was just the first person I noticed doing it. I just think I gotta give them credit. They're dehydrated, possibly. They're hungry. They're probably not sleeping at all.
They're running an American Ninja Warrior course and a challenge.
And they're sitting here like, God, I wish I were Sandra who could sit out of 20 challenges and no one would notice or care. So I get it. It was just really, really funny to me. That being said, what did you think about the whole puzzle situation? Because it's 2 weeks ago we had Boston Rob on a puzzle.
I was nervous that Boston Rob was back on a puzzle, and no shade to Michelle, I just didn't recall her being the puzzle beast in her season. Maybe she was. I tended to overlook Michelle a lot in Korong.
You're not alone.
But I thought, ooh, I'm nervous about this puzzle team. And again, we've got Sophie on the puzzle over on Decall, and she's already proven to be really strong with puzzles. Yeah. So it was a lot closer than I thought it would be, and they did have a big lead, and Sele really caught up. At first, I didn't think Michelle was contributing a lot to the puzzle, but then I saw she and Rob were both really carrying their weight, and it just came down to that one piece. Ironically, the same piece that for half the challenge Michelle was holding up going, where does it go? Was that ugly purple blob.
Oh,
she couldn't find it.
What's so funny is I have to go back to rewatch it, but I remember a number of the puzzle pieces that were getting slid in. I felt like Michelle did the majority, I felt. But it's very possible that I just remember that, and that's not 100% accurate. But I was very surprised because I, like you, was very much like, I don't remember Michelle being particularly great at puzzles. But the fact that we had Rob on the puzzle 2 weeks in a row, he made up the time. He made up a lot of time, or they, not just Rob. They made up a lot of time from being behind. But it's just kind of like, oh my gosh, you're so the puzzle guy. What's happening? And it led to Sele losing again. And it's so heartbreaking because we don't, if there's ever a season we don't want a pagonging, or we don't want a severe tribe dominating another tribe, it's winners at war.
Right.
We want to see both tribes going to tribal council. We want to see people on both sides getting crazy, like all this strategic, gymnastics. And we're not seeing that on Decall, which is so heartbreaking. So what did you think about pre-tribal council on Sele?
I had all the emotions going on because we see, I'm a person who notices the edit, right? And at this point, we've seen a lot from Adam. We've seen one confessional from Ethan. We've seen nothing from most of the other people. We've seen little dialogues here and there. And then, the talk is about Parvati being the target, but she has yet to get a confessional until right before tribal council. So I'm like, either you're sending home Parvati on a no confessional episode, and that's tragic, and it's not okay, or it's Adam, and thankfully. So, at this point, I didn't really have a lot to go with. Yeah.
So my question, because we've already seen 3 women voted out of this game. And so the fact that people were so quick to want to target Parvati, I gotta be honest, I was slightly offended.
Yeah.
And not to my core or anything like that, or not anything like that. I'm just like, why are all the women getting all kinds of targeted in this game? And it's almost just like any woman that shows anything resembling strategic aptitude or the ability to have connections with people, it's like, oh no, it can't just be that she's doing exactly what all of us are doing. No, she's a threat, she needs to go. And it's like, the theme of this episode for me was very much, someone would say something like, Parvati's playing a cutthroat game. And I'm like, other than the first episode, we've barely seen Parvati. So I didn't understand why she was being targeted. B, what about her game was cutthroat, as was described by, I think, Adam? So what are your thoughts on that?
The only thing that I could think might be a justification for that reasoning is that Danny just went home, and Danny felt close to Parvati, and Parvati clearly did not feel the same way as much as Danny felt it until Danny went rogue, and then Parvati was like, well, yeah, I did think we were close, and I'm really confused by this. So, but I do think it's a reflection of, I've often thought society is reflected in Survivor, and strong women are not respected in Survivor, and when they are respected, they're found too threatening to keep in the game. And it's a very thin line, unfortunately. Men get away with murder in Survivor, and women are chastised for it. So
it was kind of upsetting for me. And by no means, if Parvati went home in the first episode or if she wins, I'm kind of indifferent because Parvati's a great player. But at the same time, she doesn't necessarily have my heart in any regard. But that being said, I was annoyed for Parvati because it's like, oh, Ethan, Rob, and Parvati all turned on Danny. And I'm like, again, that could be the edit. But I'm sitting here going, why exactly is Parvati taking the fall for Danny targeting Parvati first and Ethan and Rob both being like, yeah, let's get rid of Danny. She's going to play that way. So
right.
it just, like every time there's like a decision or a move that's made with a man and a woman, the woman keeps taking the fall. And it's kind of frustrating to watch.
Yeah. We do see Rob very abruptly get the information from Adam about the vote and then play along with it and then straight up confront Michelle and Jeremy, which I thought was very perceptive of Rob because it did feel like Michelle and Jeremy were the drivers of this vote. So kudos to him for really picking that out and calling it. I think he realized with Natalie gone, Michelle and Jeremy sit in the power position of this tribe. I was glad that he wasn't willing to cut Parvati because she is the only other person that will be targeted over him in this game right now on the Sele tribe. But I got super nervous as all of this is going down because as they're calling out Adam and Michelle and Jeremy are upset about Adam and everything like that, I'm sitting here thinking they already showed the conversation with Denise getting the idol back from Adam, which they hadn't shown in the previous episode that I noticed. It was like a quick little filler thing. I'm like, please God, do not let Denise be like a casualty of Adam's foolishness here. And then thankfully we see Michelle talking to Denise about Adam's nonsense is the best word I have for it. So I got a little assuaged there, but still heading into tribal council, and I'm at this point very convinced that it's Adam or it's Parvati because we only get a 1 little minute snippet of Michelle going, why not Ethan?
Maybe Ethan. And nobody seems on board with it, or no one's like, well, that would make the most sense. I'm still not convinced why they voted for Ethan. Like, unless it was like we're worried Rob has the idol, he'd give it to Parvati, or Parvati has the idol, she'd give it to Rob. Let's go to Ethan because he seems like the least likely they're going to give the idol to. They didn't even discuss that.
Here's the thing. I think with the Ethan vote, and by the way, I'm super sad that it's Ethan because I feel like he has so much to prove in this game. And now I have two people on edge that I really want both of them to come back. And I'm just really upset with Natalie and Ethan both there. It might not even be either of them. I'm not thrilled with it. I think Ethan is a double casualty, and this is why it sucks. I think the grouping that voted together of Denise, Michelle, Jeremy, and Ben all realized that not only was Ethan close with Rob and Parvati, Ethan was also very close with Adam. And it was a punishment vote to keep Adam in place, to keep Adam from wanting to flip to work with the vets. Because
why not vote out Adam instead of Ethan? I need to know.
My major critique right now with so many of these reality shows is that they want to weaken somebody by not voting out the person that they want to weaken. Just take out the person that you want to punish. But I get it because Denise does have Adam's loyalty, and all she has to say to Adam with not filling him in on this vote was, you showed that we couldn't trust you with the information. They were voting for you. They wanted us to vote for you. We made sure that we took out somebody who was being a snake to you. We kept you in the game, and we didn't risk a plan of someone playing an idol or something and taking you out of the game. So,
and the trick with that is, I wholeheartedly hear everything that you're saying. The trick with that is 120% how Adam won his season.
Yeah.
It's just rewarding shitty behavior by letting Adam stay in the game.
Oh well, I'm not justifying it in any way. It's just that's
Yeah.
I think the logic that they're using. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just like, it's one of those things where everyone's so aware and so like, oh, this is how this person won. This is what they're potentially going to try and do this time. Everyone's so cognizant of that stuff, but I'm just like, no, but really, this is 120% how Adam got to the end because people got pissed off at him and said, you can't do that. He kept doing it and then made it to the end anyway and then won. So I applaud Adam because he's trying to take out big threats. The problem with Adam is that he's overestimating his abilities and his relationships with people. And that's finally starting to come out. And it only took 3 episodes, which doesn't surprise me at all. I just am like, I need Adam to go before players that I'm really emotionally just drawn to and will be devastated if they leave.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really bummed because and then in the preview for the next episode, we hear all these people. Adam needs to go. Adam needs to go. Adam could have gone last episode, and y'all still would have had numbers.
Right?
Just saying. But I
Y'all,
don't know if there was subtext of Denise really sticking up for Adam and really just being like, guys, we can't let him go yet. Like, we need to take out these vets. They will destroy us. There maybe there's the logic of a swap coming up because we are down to 16 people. That makes sense. You know, who knows?
the thing I wish they would do more than anything is just have like an insider, even if it was a YouTube video, just have every player, like these are the top 3 people I'm working with right now, whether it's because I trust them or because I think I can manipulate them. Just because we have no idea. When it was like, oh, Jeremy and Michelle are in charge of the vote this round, I'm like, are Jeremy and Michelle aligned? We don't even know. And that's so frustrating as a fan to be like, whose relationships are the strongest, who's actually playing the best social game. We have no idea. And it's really
I think they're trying to leave so many question marks that you really have to read the subtext and like look into like the logical aftermath of a vote. Like Jeremy and Michelle both not being filled in about the Natalie vote in episode 1 probably brought them together. Did they ever really talk about that? Not really. So it's a lot of these things where you really have to fill in the blanks. And
if I was intelligent as you, I probably would have figured that out. But here we are. I'm wearing a tank top and a scarf. There's a reason why you're the brains of the operation.
Any big standout moments? Did you have a drop your buff moment this episode?
My drop your buff moment, I believe, if I remember correctly, I'm checking my notes because I'm organized. My drop the buff moment, I believe, if I remember correctly, was absolutely Natalie being like, oh, maybe it's the number of shells on that thing. Let me go check. It's like, let's try these. And because she probably brought it back, one with the smash number of shells, and was just like, let's try these numbers and see if we get anything. Or maybe she didn't. But that to me was so unbelievably, I never in a million years would have thought of doing that. I would have been like, let me dig a hole and bury all these shells and just be like, where did they go? Never would have thought of that in a million years. I thought that was genius. What about you?
Well, that was my initial drop your buff moment, but I'm going to give you that one. And I am going to give, and I can't believe I'm doing it because he's not my favorite, but I am going to give the credit to Boston Rob. Sitting down, telling Adam everything he wants to hear, going along with the Parvati vote. Just tell me who it is. I'll do it. I don't want to, but gosh, it's going to kill me. I guess I'll do it. I know I have to. And just making Adam think that he's the biggest mastermind in the world. And then just immediately walking up to Jeremy and Michelle. What are you guys talking about? Oh, we're trying to just decide. And he's like, no, bullshit. I know what you're doing.
Like, y'all are trying to be cute and trying to be cherubs right now. And it's not working on me because I'm Boston Rob.
I am loving the upfront, honest cut. I don't want to say cutthroat, but the cuts that people are doing that are upfront and blatant and just like, no, like this is what I'm actually doing, or you're blatantly lying to me. Like, and Boston Rob seems to really be at the center of that, which I think is impressive. Just like I was impressed by Danny's response initially to Rob when she said, yeah, I was targeting you. I like that evolution of the game in a field of all winners. I hope that people who are being that forthright get rewarded in the end for that kind of thing. So
I feel as though that's something that will work immediately, like in situations like that, like, oh, this person's being straightforward, things like that. But I think down the road, it's one of those things where like, I can't bullshit this person. They know too goddamn much. They know too much. Oops. They're very, very sly. They're very, very well like regardless of where they're getting their information, they're getting the information from somewhere. It's because they're that good. So
Right.
what was it? And people who try and beat around the bush, a lot of winners from this season are used to playing with players who you can just say anything to justify a shady move, a deceptive move, a dishonest move, and they'll just go, oh, okay, well, you're the one I trust the most, so I'm just going to keep trusting you. This is not that season.
Yeah.
If something doesn't make sense, a lot of people are going to go, I'm going to need receipts because you are very obviously lying to me. So it's interesting. I feel like this episode and last episode were a little bit underwhelming. And so I'm really hoping we're about to pick up a lot of momentum in the next episode.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on a potential either tribe swap or getting to a point where it's like we're going to do 3 tribes of 5 when we're down to 15 players? What are your thoughts?
Well, I was going to ask you actually. So here are my thoughts. Right, I don't like the 3 tribes of 5. I never have. I think it's too small. There's too much margin of error. Like you could just, it's bad luck to get tribe swap or swap screwed or whatever in the first place. But like on a 3 tribes of 5 where you just end up with 3 people who might have magically been aligned before, like that's just, it's unnecessary, I think.
That's fair.
Um, I think 2 tribes of 8 is a perfect time to swap. So I would be really happy with a swap coming up next episode. And I felt like they didn't give us anything, so it's the perfect time to be like, haha, swap, surprise. Because that's what this edit has been this whole season is like, we're not going to tell you anything, but surprise, here it is.
I was legitimately curious, mostly because I feel like usually when there's a tribe swap, they kind of allude to it. Or there's like
Right.
drop your buffs kind of moment. And they didn't do that. And I feel like, just like in line with what you just said, I feel like if there was ever a season they were going to surprise us with a swap, it would be Winners at War. So
Yeah.
very intrigued to see if that happens and who's going to potentially be screwed by that if it does.
Yeah. I do want to ask you, would you rather see a tribe swap happen next episode, or would you rather see the red tribe lose?
Red tribe lose.
Okay.
120. 120. I feel like right now there are a lot of great players on the red tribe, and we got a taste of it with Amber. But again, it seems like when multiple people are guilty of a particular act, it's always the female that takes the fall for it. So Amber left, and for me, I'm like, no, there are some brilliant strategists on Decall. There's some amazing strategists on Decall, and I want to see how they get in there and how they flesh out who the threats are. How can you possibly decide who the threats are when everyone's a threat except maybe Nick? So I'm very, very intrigued to see how that goes down. I desperately need a Decall Tribal Council next episode. It needs to happen. If it's not a Decall Tribal Council, it needs to be a swap. Because if Sele goes to Tribal Council, I'm just done.
Yeah. I really don't want Kim to go this soon. So for her sake, I'm hoping she can swap away.
Hopefully Kim hasn't said anything about getting rid of Sandra, because if she hasn't, she's probably fine.
Perfect.
Ultimately, what would you love to see happen in the next episode?
I would love for Adam to go home. I would like to see a swap where players like Kim and Sophie and Yule end up on the same tribe, because with Kim having this split idol thing, we haven't really seen what the resolution of that is yet. And I feel like if Sophie feels like she needs Kim for numbers, that could spawn an actual alliance. So I am very interested to see, with the potential of mingling in these past relationships with people who have been on separate tribes the whole time. I want to see that. I'm not ready for the Rob and Sandra showdown that they've alluded to. I can wait for that.
Nothing to me in this life seems more fabricated. Like, I've met people with like injectable filler in all parts of their face.
Don't talk about me like that.
That seemed more believable than this alleged drama between Rob and Sandra. I'm not buying it. I'm not renting it. I'm not buying it on sale. I'm not buying it on clearance. It seems so fabricated. And I'm just like, oh yeah, you know, the best of the best going head to head, blah, 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 fabricated drama. I don't care.
Right.
But that being said, your filler looks so natural, and I'm very proud of you. You clearly went to a doctor who cares.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think that's everything we have.
That's everything. I think we went a lot longer than we went to.
As
Sorry,
always,
I talk a lot.
we do it all the time.
It happens. But we look damn good doing it, in my opinion. So, anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. As always, these are opinions. We obviously have strong opinions. In no way are we casting dispersions on anyone's character. Obviously, if you agree with us, we'd love to hear your thoughts. If there's something we've missed, we'd love to hear your thoughts. If you completely disagree with us, we definitely want to hear your thoughts. We definitely are to an open discussion. If you guys have any additional thoughts or anything like that, please leave a comment, drop a line, do what it do.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We always appreciate all the views that we get, all of them, so many views. But it's really fun for us to do every week, and hopefully there's something that we can bring to the table that you guys want to see. So any suggestions, let us know. Otherwise, we will see you on the next one. Bye.
Thank you, Ryan, for being such an amazing co-host as always.
Thank you, Alex. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.